Is October 1st, and I am here with Seonagh Kummer, who is our principal faster today in the North American Relay Fast. Seonagh is well known to many of you who will be watching today. She's a dancer, a choreographer, an educator, an artist, and someone who I treasure so much. Seonagh, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to ask you, and for being part of the Relay Fast. So I'm just going to ask you to talk about your reflections on the fast, on being part of the North American Relay Fast, on fasting generally, and what you are fasting for in particular.
Thank you, Reva. I'm honored to be here and to be interviewed by you. My introduction to fasting, I think, came actually partly, this kind of fasting came partly through you and perhaps your parents, who I knew, and some of your family. So we've known each other a long time, and the ways that we have connected have involved social justice pursuits and peace activism, as well as education and many things. So for me, this participation is very important on a personal level and on a level of my own growth. I think it's an opportunity to go within, to really focus on an idea or a purpose, and also it connects me with other people's purposes and other people's goals that are part of this relay fast. I know that there's a lot of change that many of us want to see happen in the world, and it requires not only a great deal of action, but also changing the way that we think and manifesting through a full embodiment of what we believe in our lives, in our relationships, on every level. And I think sometimes, we talk in words before we feel things in our bodies, and I think fasting draws attention to a very deep level of how we think and feel, and it enables me to really just meditate, I guess, and contemplate, and so I'm really grateful to do that for an entire day.
And tell me a little bit, that was beautiful, Seonagh. Can you tell us a little bit more about the reason for your fast, the focus for your fast?
Yes. I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit at the beginning of what you said. I just wanted to make sure if you repeat. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I think I probably hadn't turned on my mic yet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the focus for your fast.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I am spending the day in, as I mentioned, deep thought, meditation, and then partway through the day, I will be starting a first rehearsal and then a second rehearsal. So I want to talk, all of which is focused on the same topic. So I want to talk a little bit about that topic and then how I'll enter that. So to me, first I have to say that as a dancer, I tend to social justice concerns from a somatic transformational perspective. And that just means that the way that I move through change is just how I create, how I perform, how I breathe, how I work in the studio. And I start with the body because it's such a rich resource for all of us, right? And as a dance person and dance artist, I know that in a in-depth way. but I also work with people who don't consider themselves dancers, and that, you know, we all carry stories in our bodies. We all carry meaning that we process. And I look to movement for ways to explore my own grief or process my grief, for example, about my mother. But I also work in community and develop dance pieces about issues that affect a wider community, or sometimes myself too, and just how we process through the body. So the body is just such a rich resource, which is why I chose to focus through 2 rehearsals today. And I am thinking a lot in relation to children's bodies that were recently discovered in Canada, starting in Kamloops at the residential school there with the 215 children. And now, you know, every month more are discovered. And I just, you know, those, as we all know, those deaths can't be in vain. And there's a huge history of intergenerational trauma that is associated with residential school. And, you know, it mounts every month, as now the numbers are up to around 6,000, if not more, you know. And this is a very personal thing for me. And also, I think that it is important for me to step up as a leader, and not to, you know, put the role of doing this work only on Indigenous people, for example, teaching white people. You know, my ancestors are Irish. My some are Scottish as well, and I have, you know, thought a lot about, you know, first residential school was happened in Ireland, right, and was transported elsewhere, and I've had a lot of opportunities to talk deeply with people who have been affected, you know, in horrific ways by the abuse, and heard their stories. And I feel that it's incumbent on me to listen and to process and to perhaps bring those stories to a wider community. And I know that the children, you know, when they were found, there's been a lot more interest among a wider population in how, like how this happened, or what is the history. And so I just feel it's an opportunity to step up. It's another platform to communicate with a wider, even global audience about these concerns, because it's not just obviously in Canada, but right now, Canada is very focused on this and has started, as you know, the National Day of Reconciliation, I think it's called, and Remembrance. And so I am just, I was, you know, I've been thinking about how to respond since, you know, since the first moment where that tooth was found in Kamloops, and the children's bodies were uncovered. And I do say uncovered, not discovered, because they were known, you know, they were known to be missing, those children and many other children. And there have been no answers, you know, for so many years, only stories of these difficult traumas. And so what I want to do is through these rehearsals and through my meditations is to focus on the children, on that loss, on also the way that memory functions in our society, that we seem to need evidence to address things. And without that evidence, sometimes traumas are put under the rug, you know, and not talked about, not recognized. So I'm doing things also such as reaching out to friends or family members who are Indigenous, and thinking about, you know, how I can be supportive. For instance, my nephew's grandmother went to the school where the first 215 bodies were found, you know. And in both rehearsals that I will be directing, there are several Indigenous either young people or, you know, co-artists that I'm working with. And so we're going to explore grief as one thing, and this cyclical idea of grief, but also the way that memory works with that, and how it is so important to recognize that pain and how it affects generations, not just the people that went through that and who lost their lives for that, and due to the racism that was, you know, embedded in those policies and school systems and the way that children were treated. And but to just to look at that intergenerationally and how that interacts with our own bodies. And I just feel that that is a vital part of our society change today, the changes that need to happen, and that we're at a moment in which to go forward and to be whole, we need to fully recognize the lessons of the last 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, and more, and that things are propelling forward in this way in terms of healing. And for me, one of the contemplations is to find the courage to speak up, the courage to be a leader and to be powerful, because, you know, I have my own traumas and my own history, in which I have felt diminished and small. And so to overcome that in a greater cause, is an important step, just as a human being. And I think that these small ripples are just something that I have to believe in. I mean, Gandhi spoke about that, right? Small acts, and then, you know, these ripples go up. So I have to believe that, and I do believe that, and that's what I am contemplating.